Eric Roberts, EHI Board Support Staff.
Bradley Hill, cab member.
Fran Johnson, cab member, vice chair.
Ed Stennett, cab member.
Billy Bob Carter, cab member.
Tom Barger, cab chair.
Jay Brewer, cab.
Buzz Smith, DOE.
April Lott, DOE.
Haley Wiggins, EHI support staff.
And I know the interns are gonna be put on the spot here. Go ahead and just go down the table, just introduce yourself very quickly. That's okay.
Bruce Jones.
Jaden Mond.
Marshall Jenkins.
Michelle Jones, CTAS DOE contractor.
Ethan Roberts, Zach Ware, DES.
Lori Tricadenovich.
And then online, Julie, how are you? Julie's handling our feed to YouTube so that we're meeting our requirements to go public. She's at the HI. Reese is driving.
Sorry, I was checking to see if it's online. Hang on just a second.
Perfect, thanks, Julie. We have Reese. Reese, are you there, buddy?
Hi, Reese Anderson, cab. Hey, Jenkins.
Got a shout out. I like it. All right. We got April Webb with the Commonwealth. April, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. We've heard from Clint. Hey, Clint, buddy. Clint's been here. And then we got Sonia Smiley, who you guys met in person last month. Sonia, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks. Thanks for being here. Sonia's also with the Commonwealth. All right, let's look at that recommendation. So last fall, the CAB passed the recommendation. At the end of the summer, FRMP, Four Rivers, brought in their interns, handful of their interns that were still local, and kind of did an overview on the program and talked to us about what they did. And so the board issued advice to DOE. You can slide on down. That basically the recommendation had a handful of points. One, offering multi-year internships for interns who show excellent skills. Well, I don't think that applies to any of these guys. You'll see from the Four Rivers folks that we meet up towards the end of the summer, a lot of familiar faces. So they were able to extend that. All right, go ahead and then Haley. Increase the number of internships, right? And so last year on site, there were 21 or 22 total between all contractors. This year, it's FRMP has 20, ETOS has 6, DOE has 2, correct? So Swift and Staley has their college labor program, but they've got some folks that aren't interns, but they're college kids that brought on site to get experience being on site doing work. So it's a much larger number year to year. Increase outreach to local colleges. So we'll let the kids talk with the kids. We'll let the interns, sorry guys, forgive me. We'll let the interns talk about where they go to school and where they come from. And I think you're going to see kind of a broader reach than what we talked about last year. Increased advertising to high schools. That's become part of the spill when folks go out to both colleges and universities. Focus on the benefits and advantages of students staying in their home areas. And then begin the application process earlier. So maybe they can talk to that about how that went. So this was the recommendation, you guys. And so one of the reasons we wanted these folks to come in is, one, we wanted them to see what you guys do. But two, we wanted to kind of follow up and let them see that your recommendations being put into action, what's going on. So Michelle, I'll introduce you and your team. You guys can, yeah. What's going up here? So.
Good afternoon or good evening, and thank you all for having us. As Eric stated, one of the major priorities of DOE is to close this workforce age gap that is imminent, that will be coming upon us very soon. And so the internship program is designed. We're very excited this year at the Paducah site. We've got 6 interns this year, 15 total in the program, which is up from 8 last year. And it's a very unique opportunity for the interns. If I must say so myself, as being involved with the program, I've often thought to myself, because I was part of the inaugural program last year, And I thought to myself, I want to be an intern. And I never did intern during my college experience. So it's been a very unique opportunity for me as well. But it's a 10-week program. It began May 22nd. It'll conclude July 26th. We've got, we actually have 2 returning interns that were in the program last year that are in the program this year, and one that's been brought on full time. So we're very pleased with that. That kind of goes along with, there is a statistic that says that 56% of all United States interns have accepted full-time jobs with the company where they intern. So that's a big plus for us. Also, an additional 14% of all U.S. interns are given part-time jobs after completing their internships. So that's another key benefit. A little bit about the program and how it's structured. So each intern is assigned a mentor and a functional lead, and within the division of the organization that they're working. And they're able to take their learning objectives and customize it based on their career and academic interests. So I like that aspect of the program because it's giving them an opportunity to be involved in their own learning outcomes. Also, they're assigned a high priority project. They may get a secondary project depending on the complexity of the priority project. They also will be doing a professional portfolio, and that will benefit them in all of their future career pursuits to kind of chronicle their entire internship experience with photographs, narratives about what they took part in. And then, of course, the big final presentation where they get to stand up in front of all of the management at the Lexington office and give a 10-minute presentation about what they experienced. Also, we have what we call weekly all-intern group activity. So this is an opportunity for them. They've gone on a site tour together. They'll do 2 Lexington trips. They did a training at Lexington and that Eric actually facilitated wonderfully, a DISC assessment. And that's, again, an opportunity for team building, getting to know each other, and so on and so forth. Also, huge partnering opportunities with area interns through the Paducah Chamber of Commerce, as well as I think it's young professionals group, Paducah Young Professionals, PYP members through the chamber, as well as we have FRNP or Four Rivers interns. They've got about 20 on site this year. So very excited what's going on at the Paducah site. I hope you all are too, and also excited to hear from our interns. Thank you.
So if you guys want to come up, you guys can all come up together, and we'll just give them if you can talk to us about like where you're from and where you're going to school, what you're studying, and then what she talked about your major project, if you have a secondary project, what it is you're working on, and then you guys, like any questions you want to ask, like we'll just take all the time in the world. And, come on, don't be shy.
Hello everyone, my name is Marshall Jenkins. I am a Rice junior at the University of Kentucky, Paducah. I've been studying mechanical engineering, so I'm like a quarter mile down the road. That's where I go to school at. And I am the project controls intern. And my major project that I'm doing is I am running COBRA reports and using documents sent over from FRNP and using those documents to compile a monthly, well, it's called the MPR report, I forgot what it stands for. But it's a big report from FRNP that I will be personally giving to April Lab, who will then give that to the entirety of DOE at Paducah, and then it'll go up the chain of command. So I'm at the beginning process of a big chain of reporting. So that's what I'm doing.
Monthly project review.
Monthly project review.
Okay, so I guess we're starting here. I'm Ethan Roberts. My project's Take Your Dad to Work. No, I'm kidding. I'm doing PFAS. I'm a general engineering student at the University of Mississippi. And then in addition to studying PFAS and understanding where that's be or where some of that contamination might be coming from and how it's affecting the site. I'm also looking at electric vehicles and what some new proposals are for that, doing research on that. Oh, and I'm the technical support services intern. Forgot to say that, probably.
I'm Victoria Vukanovich, Tori, and I'm the visual communication intern, hence the camera. But my big project is I'm going to work on a video to show DOE's perspective on all of the interns. So for the entryway program that they're doing, so I will be putting together a video with some interviews, some pictures, just a little bit of everything in there, and then just documenting the process along with other things that I can support with the other projects happening around the site.
Hey, real quick, Joy, before we go into Leon. So the entryway program, if I understand right, ETOS's contract says you have to hire employees with a certain level of experience, right? And so to meet that experience, we keep hiring middle-aged to older folks, right, that have that experience, and we're not hiring younger folks. And so the entryway program is a new setup that DOE has created with ETOS where they can hire college kids and allow them to get that experience on the job and kind of grow into that position, right? Similar to the Pathways program you got with DOE. So she's working on creating a module to help kind of sell that and show people this is what they're doing. So that's a really big deal. And then that get passed up.
Thank you.
My name is Leon Lin. I go to Eastern Kentucky University. I study computer science with a concentration in computer technology. I'm currently a senior. My big project, I am a network engineering intern with ETAX. A big project being taking care of vulnerabilities and making sure that all softwares are up to date so that we don't get attacked or any sort of vulnerabilities get caught. And we've worked on some other smaller projects such as the IMS system, the inventory management system, so we know where all of the devices that is listed on site are. Just a small site.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jaden Mott. I'm from Carlisle County, so I'm fairly local to the area. I'm a Murray State student studying occupational safety and health. I'm a senior, and my biggest project, I'd say, with ETOS is I'm inspecting culverts. So going through and like looking for enforcement around roads. There's some old culverts out there that are stopped up. Some are 100% full. 100% cement filled. Just getting up to date on which one of those need to be replaced. The sooner to help the water to run, the proper way, keep roads washing away, sinkholes forming, stuff like that.
Hey, I'm Trent Jones. I'm from Fairfield, Illinois. I'm a rising senior at Murray State studying cybersecurity and network management. Last year, I actually worked with Swift and Staley as an IT intern, so now with ETOS. Working with Leon on that's called the KEV list, known exploited vulnerabilities. So going through, I have a list of computers that need to get updated so we can knock out those vulnerabilities, as well as working on updating our inventory.
All right, so it's you guys. What questions do you have for the interns? Yeah, Frank.
Never know what I'm gonna say. I noticed that we have one young lady. Are there any more young ladies involved in the intern program?
I'll answer that. We have two young ladies that are DOE interns. And we'll get you to meet them next month when we check in.
And I believe Four Rivers has 8 of their 20 at ballpark, off the top of my head. There's I'm trying to think, are there any with the
Portsmouth has at least 2.
Portsmouth has 2. I was trying to think of them. So. Other questions? That's a good question. All right, so since they're not going to ask questions, what have you learned that surprised you being in the corporate office as opposed to being in school? So just throw that out and then you go sit down.
You learn a whole lot more.
Yeah.
I'd say when you're in the classroom, they kind of throw a book at you and say, read this. Whenever you're out here, in the field doing stuff or, in the office doing stuff, either way, it's like, you don't always have that textbook, you gotta really hone in and like put forth a lot more effort. In the classroom, anybody can kind of skim through in a classroom, and I feel like out there, like getting a job, you kind of hold yourself a lot more accountable. Or at least I feel like I do. Make myself more determined, more dedicated, and more eager to learn. You sit in a classroom, it's the same stuff every day, every class. Whereas this, it's like it's a good opportunity, and it really makes you want to hone in and focus more.
Anyone else?
I know there's a very common saying that you never stop learning once you get out of college, and I didn't really know what that would look like because this is my first, I would say, real intern in the real world, and I would say I'm surprised, but yes, I went into project controls and I knew absolutely nothing, and there has not been a day I've worked where I have not learned something new. So I learned a lot, and I will plan on continuing learning as I go through this intern and whatever my future career is.
Kind of along those two lines, it's really easy to go and, instead of sitting down at your desk and doing your work, going, to the break room or going to another intern's office and, slacking off for 5 hours or whatever, and then, acting like you're doing stuff. But at the end of the day, you still got to be the one who takes care of your schedule and make sure that, you're getting everything done because, you have your supervisors, but they aren't going to, hold your hand through every single aspect of your job. You still got to make sure that you get your own tasks done and your own assignments done. It's up to you to make sure that you're keeping track of yourself, staying on path.
My daughter was a youth age. She was a student and did her student teaching. And she called me one time and said, Mama, what they said in the book is not right. In the real world, it doesn't work that way. Have you found anything like that in your studies that it didn't work that way?
No real world application. So I'm in safety, so a lot of things. I had an internship last year in the funeral industry, so it's all OSHA, OSHA this, and OSHA isn't always the best option. There's PELs, different things to go off of. DOE has their own standards that they go by, and they're top notch compared to OSHA. So that's like a big thing I kind of had to adjust to. It's kind of like realize what I've remembered in school, going through school, taking these classes, and what I've memorized for these tests. I'm gonna have to know this. I'm gonna have to use this. There's some places where you get where it's different because they like to make the situations and atmosphere just a lot safer.
For cybersecurity, I guess in the book they tell you, there's sometimes kind of a blanket solution for something, but when you get out in the real world, every company, sometimes departments may be different how your network's set up, right? Especially with the government sector and so I've just noticed, sometimes you think, oh, we'll just do this, but then there are certain security features in place, so you have to just kind of backtrack and kind of reorganize things.
All right, thank you guys. And real quick before you sit down, it's for affect these families and, anything you guys want to say? Yeah, that's a big part of what you're doing this summer, right? Raising money for.
Yeah. So we are putting together a fundraiser for Fed families, and we are currently doing a donate for donuts. So it's just within our office, and we have 2 mason jars set out so people can vote for whichever company they like, and then at the end of the week, next week, we are going to bring in donuts for whatever company wins that. And then we're putting together a barbecue, if you want to talk about that one.
Together it's called Hillbilly Barbecues, a food truck that's usually on site on Thursdays. We set up the time with them on next Wednesday. They'll be supplying about 400 barbecues, enough for 400 people, of course. And all the profits earned will go to vets and families, so hopefully we'll get our goal of 2,500 with that.
That fundraiser, it's a drive by the plant to go and raise money for the local food drives. There's 8 different food drives, I think, or food banks that are benefited by this fundraiser, and it goes out to basically all of Western Kentucky. I think there's, basically Jackson Purchase area all gets affected by this, and so all this money goes directly to those food banks to help people in the summer and help make sure that everyone has food and is taken care of.
Correct me if I'm wrong too. I'm pretty sure it's every $1 donated is 5 pounds worth of food. So if if you think about that, all the donations, they can be a whole lot of food. So I mean, it's very, very beneficial to the community.
And we just had one on Tuesday. We had grilled hamburgers and hot dogs and a little picnic and raised some money. We got about, what, $500, $600?
Yeah, about $550 per day.
So when you're doing a competition in the office, Reds versus Munnels. So you guys feel strongly one way or the other? Do you want to contribute, help feed some folks and throw dollars their way? And
Reds needs help.
whoever wins, I will have to bring donuts at our next meeting for whatever. So.
It is. They're getting blown out. It's.
Anything else for these guys?
Glad you feel the same way I do.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Right. Don, we're going to pass it to you and let you
Okay.
walk us through the agenda.
All right. If you do have the agenda in front of you, we go on down there. April, I know you're doing a presentation later. Do you wish to make any comments at this time?
No, give you the updates here
Table for later.
in the presentation.
Buzz, anything you wish to give us at this time?
Just a comment that all these interns in our office really creates a new, exciting dynamic. So we're really enjoying that moment.
Do we have any of our liaisons online that have any comments they wish to make tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on forward. Eric, are there any administrative issues to come before the group tonight?
No, sir.
And it says presentate. April, we're already back to you.
Yeah, that quick. So we're gonna do just a site status project update presentation tonight in prep for the tour next month. And work this stuff maybe. Go ahead, click over. So really the main three projects and mission activities that we have ongoing currently at the site is revamping the regulatory strategy, as you guys have heard bits and pieces about, to try to reduce the number of decision documents that we previously had to a smaller number, very similar to the number that Portsmouth has. It's very implementable, and the process is shown successful there. So we're going to continue to work with Kentucky and EPA and the regulators to advance that regulatory vision there. And then we continue to work on deactivation of the 333 process building, and we'll go into some of those details on exactly where we're at with that here in some upcoming slides. And then also, as we are deactivating and removing needs for facilities, we have to continue to right-size the infrastructure due to the need not being as large as it once was when the plant was in GDP operations. So we'll go to the next slide, and it kind of shows you just a pictorial of what we previously had, which was about 51 decision documents, really focused on a lot of individual facilities, a lot of individual media types, a lot of individual avenues associated with the cleanup. And so very similar to Portsmouth, they had 5 in total, but we're really focused on 3 of the main ones, which is a decision on D&D of the site, a decision on waste disposal alternatives, and a decision on how we go about remediating the environmental media. Environmental media is like soil, groundwater, ditches, lagoons, things like that. So we'll go to the next one. One thing to point out is, we've had a huge focus on C400, and we got the FS stage with that project remediation, and
It was feasibility study.
Yeah, feasibility study, yep. Got to that stage, and when you started looking at the cost associated with the project, a large portion of the cost was in waste disposition. And it's a, it's a timing thing for Paducah. We were on track to have an on-site waste disposal facility back in around 2014. We had really started, going that route. And then we kind of got into a dispute on route effluent limits. Headquarters kind of decided to let Oak Ridge lead the way on that because they were also in the same boat Paducah was in with their second cell. And so after 12 years, they got a rod signed and they're moving forward with their cell. So we put ours on the back burner, and I think a mix between that and then the DOE taking the site back over from USEC is really what kind of caused those 51 documents. And then when we started doing the C400 remediation project and we looked at the feasibility study, approximately $160 million was going to go to ship waste offsite. So soil, building debris, things like that associated with the remediation of the project. So obviously, without a waste disposal decision on site, right now, that the cost had to be off-site. So the on-site waste disposal facilities are very expensive. $160 million to just send some waste off-site. We really said, hey, we really need to step back and look at this and really take a look at what we are doing and how we're doing cleanup. And again, C400 still is rolled up into this new strategy with the environmental media will treat the groundwater and the soil and the other contaminants kind of below grade, and then demolition of the facility, and then the waste disposal decision will, ultimately decide, can a cell be a viable option at Paducah. So we started some seismic review. We had previously done seismic study with that on-site waste disposal facility feasibility study that we did back in 2014 timeframe-ish. And so we're dusting that off and updating it. KRCE's working that work for us. We've got a grant with them. And they kicked off last week, I believe. So we've got that work kicking off and going on. And I just wanted to still point out that C400 is a part of the new strategy. It's just flowed into the different buckets of where it fits. But if we were to go to dispute, and have an issue, like Oak Ridge did with their the waste disposal rod record of decision, on our decision documents, we have some built-in off-ramps, if you will, to kind of go do some things at 400 and continue to advance and move forward with cleanup of that block there. So really focused on lessons learned from Portsmouth and the strategies that they're using and implementing similar ones at Paducah to more efficiently implement the cleanup and meet the needs of the site and advance the DOE mission. We have, FRMP has brought in a team of experts. Several of the members of the team implemented the regulatory strategy at Portsmouth. Some of them implemented the strategy at Oak Ridge, and some of them have implemented the Fernald strategy. So we feel like we've got a good mix of core subject matter experts that are helping lead the way on this regulatory approach and really helping us to focus on the holistic cleanup of the site and trying to not get sidetracked by some other little things that may pop up here and there. So we've been working with that team for about a month or two now, say probably a couple months. We're getting really close. The Decision 2029 strategy is kind of what we call it, because we would like to have all three records of decision for the D&D, waste disposal alternative, and the environmental media by 2029 to support potential first waste placement in fiscal year 32, which would be like October 31. And so, based on things that come up, we can definitely rearrange, buildings we have in sequence and things like that. But, we had planned to demo 400 first. We plan to use soil probably from the fire training area to support the demo of the 400 facility for waste placement. And then we would go to either 33 or 37 process facility. We had been focusing on 33, but we recently got some interest in 37 being first before 33. So we're looking at that and looking at the details associated with that. And then continue with the fire training soil and kind of the west side of the plant, soil going into the cell there. Clean up of the burial grounds. Most of the burial grounds are on the west side. And soil from that area to facilitate placement of the demolition debris into a potential cell if we were to. So,
fire training, is that because of PFAS?
Fire training is because of PFAS. It is where we did all of the drills and things and did use the AFFF. So, trying to factor in the PFAS emerging contaminants and concerns. Here this fall, we'll be going out and doing some sampling north of 400 to kind of further delineate and define TC concentrations there that we've seen following the RIFS activities that we did. And then after that, we're going to go over to the fire training area and try to take some samples over there to kind of get a better idea on the source material that we have over there to try to kind of help us collect some data and be able to see what we have to deal with there. And again, to help flow that PFAS cleanup and things into the cleanup strategy. So that way, we don't like just stop this and go focus on this. So it's kind of just trying to keep everything flowing together. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, 2029, when we put everything, scheduled everything out and looked at the sequence and the logic, all three of those routes have to be signed and ready to go by then to support this strategy that we're looking at. And it's all funding dependent, obviously. We've got funding profiles that we've set up to support this. If we don't get the money that supports it, and push out a little bit. But ultimately, I think that the SME team and then questioning attitudes and just everything, we see it implementing at Portsmouth, very successful. And it's going to be a challenge, and I'm sure Victor, April, and Sonia, you'll hear them say, but I think we've been working really well together, the tri-parties, and I think we'll be able to successfully implement this. And there will be some challenges, and we're trying to tackle some of those up front. So that way we don't just wait till we get there to deal with it and try to go ahead and get some of the issues that we know that have been issues out on the table and kind of get our legal parties on DOE side, their side, to go ahead and start having conversations and try to work language and things that everybody can agree to and live with.
Question.
Sure.
So from 2024 to 2029, what would go on with single hunting?
So we're doing the sampling north of 400 this fall, and we're looking at installing a new well to set up a pump and treat to help pull this source area back to the building. So we'll add another extraction well for pump and treat, maybe two, depending on what this additional sampling data shows us. Upgrade of the 612 pump and treat. We're working on a technical memo. Maybe have to go into an ESD. We're not sure. We're still working that. hopefully if we can do maybe a technical memo to upgrade the 612 to facilitate this additional well or two. And then we'll monitor that, go through the pump and treat, monitor that, and see how we're doing on removal efficiencies while we're prepping these other regulatory documents to support that. And then, like I said, we're looking at the fire training area to do some sampling there to try to support having some data to kind of answer some of the, roadmap questions on PFAS from employers. So, we just to get the data back, get it validated, take a look at it. We're also looking at essentially doing tracer particles from the fire training area through the well network to ensure that 612 is capturing the flow from that side of the plant. Do some particle tracers there to make sure that it is capturing it. And then looking at, Kelly Lane had just went to Rad Waste, and there were some companies there talking about their resins and different things of how they have certain resins that will attract the PFAS first, and then another resin to attract like the CCE or whatever contaminant you're kind of second, because otherwise, with what we have, the resin will become loaded with PFAS and then reduce TCE collection. So we're looking at the efficiencies there that we could gain, and looking at some of the companies. Of course, PFAS is new and emerging, and technologies are being developed, as expeditiously as possible. So there's always something new coming up, and every time we go to a conference or a workshop or something, we're learning some new technologies and stuff on how to deal with some of the PFAS. So, we'll have several activities focused on 400 while we're trying to also do regulatory documents to support the Decision 2029 process. So we'll have the tech memo through the 612 upgrade, pump and treat. We'll have installation of the well, and then the sampling will start in the fall to try to help define where that well needs to be placed, one or two or whatever. And then what upgrades may be necessary to support that flow rate for one or two wells to be added to. So there's going to be pump and treat. It's really effective, but it takes a long time. Right. So we've been our pump and treat, Northwest Plume Pump and Treat's been operating since the mid to late 90s, and the plume maps you guys have seen has really shrunk down from early on to where we are today. It is very effective. It does take a while. So, and you have to continue to optimize those. And that's something else we're looking at is, do we need to optimize again? Right. Because the concentrations we're starting to see from the 2010 starting to drop. So, we're drawing back, keep coming back, retreating back. So we're looking at that as well, to continue to treat that area. And then
that just means moving the wells closer into
the source area. Mm-hmm. But we have to stay within that concentration range that you're not pulling that source material. So that's part of the sampling effort to try to look at where the best placement would be. So a lot will be going on. We're trying to balance between 400 and PFAS. We want to make sure that we're understanding that's the particle tracing thing to make sure it's getting captured, and then looking at potential, if we upgrade because we're optimizing, and then also adding some flow from the additional well, then maybe additional resins and things to help capture the PFAS and things. So
that may even be its own separate thing.
Correct.
To keep it out of the tank. And
yes, absolutely.
And you've got some more over there too.
Yes.
Continue to capture.
Right. Absolutely. So we got a lot going on. really, like I said, a lot of it's funding and, you know, that's one thing, the community is great about lobbying for Paducah to get the additional funding. And hopefully, you know, we'll be successful again this next fiscal year in getting some additional dollars. But, you know, we're pretty limited on how much we can do based on how much money we get. So try to get the most bang for our buck, and get as much information and cleanup done as we can. Any other questions on kind of the regulatory strategy overview? All right, we'll go into 33 deactivation. The bar chart kind of shows the percent complete overall for some of the main work activity areas. So inspection and sampling is for characterization of the facility, and we're just outside of 80% complete there with characterizing, and that's for the whole building. And then converter segmentation. So if you remember from one of the previous presentations, the converter is on the cell floor, second floor of the 33 building, and we have a material sizing area. And so the converter's cut out of the cell from where it's currently located, and then a crane takes it over to the material sizing area. And then in that material sizing area, we cut the ends off, and then we cut it horizontally to make two halves. We pull the two bundle out. So then the bundle's wrapped, and the crane takes it and drops it down into the truck alley on a trailer, and then the tow truck takes it over to the Large Atom Neutron Assay System, LINUS, and it gets NDA measurement, non-destructive assay measurement. That's a characterization tool to help us know, you know, kind of like material, how much uranium, how much holdup, how much radioactivity it has, and then it goes over to the bundle size reduction facility, and then essentially we take the round bundle and we kind of smash it into a square. Can't really make it a square, a round to a square, but our storage container is a square, so we take the round bundle and we bend the edges so it can fit into a high cube ceiling, which is the storage box. And then we take the storage box over and we have a gravel laydown yard, and that's where it'll be stored until we're kind of letting Portsmouth lead the way on nickel recovery. There was expression of interest that went out on technologies to decon nickel and then also process it and melt it, carbon anneal process and other processes. So there's an evaluation ongoing on the technology and processes to do that. So I think we're just going to let them kind of take the lead, and then whatever they get in place, you know, we look for it to get stood up at Paducah and then start processing our nickel bundles at Paducah at some point. So that's kind of the process for the converter and the bundle. And then just deactivation of the entire process building. And you can see we're just about 45–50% there on completion of that. We've done a lot. It takes a lot to be able to do characterization. There's asbestos housing panels because when the plant was in operation, you wanted to keep all your heat in to keep the UF6 as a gas. So everything's like enclosed in panels and heat trace and all these different things to make sure that during operating it stayed as a gas and it didn't freeze out, because UF6 is very interesting in that it has triple point and it can be solid, liquid, or gas at different temperatures. So very important to try to keep heat in and to keep it in the gas phase during operation. So for characterization, I know on the unit bypass, I think it was like about 5,600 panels were removed to be able to access the piping. to even insert like the robot pipe filler, and we got some pictures coming up on that. I know all the cell housings had to be removed. They're asbestos trim-back panels. And all of this is prepped to support being able to do those visual inspections, to be able to do NDA techniques, to be able to quantify material that's in the piping and equipment upstairs that was used for the GDP process. So we'll go to the next slide. We've completed characterization of the surge drums in the 33 facility. So the surge drums are essentially big vessels, containers that during operation you're able to put product down there into those drums. And so if the power company called and said, hey, we're going to drop your load because we've got cool residential homes, you guys need to shut down some cells and take some cells offline. So they would take the product and put it in the surge drums and reduce the power need by the plant. And a lot of times the plant during operation did maintenance during the summer because it was we would lower our megawatt usage because we would take cells out to maintain and repair things. And so then and the commercial electrical provider was able to provide, additional heating and cooling, provide additional cooling when it was in the upper 90s, hundreds, whatever outside. So a lot of the operation ran like full blast in the winter, and power was a little cheaper. And so also running full blast in the winter meant you had to keep everything warm because you didn't want things freezing out. So again, back to all the panels. But so the surge drums was able to a place to put material. So we have isolated those from the system. We've done sampling. We've done characterization. We've done some NDA measurements. And everything's come back non-fissile. So fiscal year 23, we did 20 surge drums, fully characterized, deactivated. And then fiscal year 24, we've completed 22. So there was 42 surge drums in 33 building to characterize and make sure that all record waste was removed, hazardous materials, all things like that. So the surge drums are 100% complete of the 42 in the 333 facility. We'll go to the next slide. And so as I mentioned, the unit bypass. So in the top of this picture, this pointer may work, I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, right there, up here. You kind of see these pipes running like this. There was panels all here. And so as I mentioned, there was like 5,600 panels. There's over 3 miles of processed gas piping. The unit bypass connected all the cells. So, there was headers to valve the process, pull cell off, pull one on, take off, valve different ways. That's one difference about Paducah than Portsmouth. Portsmouth ran in series. So it went in here, came out here, and it just went in a straight line. So Paducah's more like a xylophone. It would shrink and expand based on the customer's need. And so, you may have half of a building low assay, another half high assay. You may have, when you had your 1,720 stages all in a line, you can get to your 5.5% enrichment. And so, the more you had in line, the higher the assay. And it was just a lot of configurations for Paducah. Because we started out, we had the lower cascade, which was these two buildings right here. So this is the 33 building. It's a triple lot building. It has the larger equipment. This is 31. It's a double lot building. It has smaller equipment. This is 310, the product withdrawal. And then 315, this is TELS withdrawal. So on product withdrawal, for every one product cylinder, these big cylinders. For every one product, the Tells building pulled 3 of these depleted. So that's how come we have this huge inventory of depleted cylinders, is because for every one product, there was 3 depleted.
And the ones that were drawn were a lot smaller, right?
The wood,
The ones that, the finished product was a lot smaller cylinder too, right?
they're 48 tons, as I was saying.
Okay.
So when the plant started, it started with this lower cascade, just this small facilities. This product was raw Tells, and then 33 and 31. So they got that up and going, started, then we started working on 37 and 35, this upper cascade. And so that's why Paducah is so interconnected. There's tie lines between this building, tie lines between this building, tie lines between these buildings. I mean, there's interconnectivities all over. And so that's one thing with characterization that we have to be sure, and you'll see, like it mentioned talking about isolation of the surge zones, right? Because you can valve those suckers right back in if you're not careful into something and mess up all your characterization data you just collected, and that you knew they were good, but now they're not. A valve got turned and it opened and dumped something somewhere it shouldn't have. So we were very careful on making sure that before we go and start characterizing and collecting data, that we valve everything out, isolate, so that way the data we know can't change. So the unit bypass characterization is about 60% complete. We anticipate it to finish up the other 40% probably next fiscal year, just because of the amount of work that it takes to be able to characterize all that piping and valves and interconnectivity. We'll go to the next one, and this slide's just some pictures. So this slide right here are some NDA technicians, and he's watching the pipe crawler on the computer. And this reel right here is the tagline for the pipe crawler. So they have the pipe crawler in a pipe crawling, and they're watching it on the computer. The pipe crawler has a sodium iodide scanner, has a tremendous camera on it, so you can kind of visually see. So if you were to see some material, you have the sodium iodide scanner to kind of help quantify or help you know what kind of is there. This picture right here in the middle are some NDA techs, and they're setting up a neutron slab detector to get an NDA measurement on this pipe right here. So they're prepping it, getting it scanned for getting it set up to be scanned by that NDA, by that slab detector. This picture right here, this is actually the pipe crawler. This one, you can see the light and the sodium iodide scanner, and it's on tracks and just drives right through a straight pipe. It's pretty amazing. We've done some demonstrations and things, and it's really, the visual inspections are really good with it. This one here, this was a surrogate bundle that we had made for readiness associated to make sure before we started MSA segmentation, material sizing. We went through a very rigorous readiness process with the contractor. DOE oversaw to make sure they're following all their procedures, and we went through with some surrogates just to make sure when we got upstairs and we're working with radioactive materials that we were ready to do the job. And so this is just a picture of the surrogate. They're going to drop it down through the hatch here. They had just mocked measurement of we have a 6-gun system up there, which is essentially a contraption that has 6 neutron slab detectors on it, and you can get an initial measurement so you have an idea what the tube bundle may be from a NDA standpoint before you move it anywhere. In the 33 building, we chose 33 to start with because it's lower assay. So everything in the 33 building is less than 1%. So at 1%, then you have to go and get into criticality controls. And so the upper Cascade buildings, 30, 35 and 37, that'll be crucial, having this 6-gun with the 6 neutron slide detectors, so that way you kind of know before you move that bundle what the NDA kind of assay percent is. Because you may have some different handling techniques based on criticality controls. Then this picture right here, they're doing some measurements on some piping in the cell housing here. Really, the whole GDP process is a modern marvel when you see like the size of the piping, the size of the equipment. Think, my goodness, how could we do something like this today? I don't even know if we could, gather up all the smart people around the world and create something like this in the time frame that was done back then. It's pretty amazing. So NDA characterization, as I mentioned, kind of seeing the percent complete is about 75%, not quite 80, but we're almost there. So this is kind of our component work off curve. So this represents the number of components per month. And then you can kind of see our progress and where we are. So even though we were here and it called for here, we've made up some gains in these areas here. So we're right at about 75, approaching the 80%. And you can see by December 2024, as far as the NDA scans and characterization, we should be nearing completion with everything in the building by that point. So we'll go to the next slide and kind of talk a little bit about the material sizing area. I went into a little more in depth earlier about this, but this picture here is a converter on the roller stand there. It's hoisted here. They're prepping it and getting it ready to take it into the dust collection system, which is over here. But so to date, we've successfully segmented 56 converters. We've measured and stored 43 bundles to date. So you say, where's the other Delta? We have storage cages, and the long lead item is cutting the shell and then downsizing the shell to get it into a great configurable storage. And so the bundle size reduction team can get more bundles processed quicker. So they often float back over to the building to help with cutting up of the shells and cutting shells. So they may run a half a day and then go help, or they may let a day build up and then go knock them all out. So that process, and then also too, you got a couple days that after you do the Linus and get your NDA measurement, you have to kind of wait till you get your data back from that before you can go and do the size reduction. So for calendar year 24, we plan to do 100. We're halfway there. We're in June, so we're looking pretty good to potentially meet that 100 converters process in 24. So we have 496 to complete. So if we complete 100 this year, we'll be at about that percent. So, there's 7 different types of converters. We've run into about 2 or 3 different types now so far with the ones that we've processed. So we do, have a plan for the other types, but until Murphy gets on the cutting table, you never know. We do have a plan, but we do run into some differences here and there based on what we originally thought to be and how we thought we were going to tackle cutting them. So A little bit more pictures on the material sizing area. So let's see, here's some end caps cut up. These are the ends. You can see back here, these are shell halves. And this is the part where I talked about the crew floating to downsize this stuff. Because this picture it doesn't look that big, but it's humongous. And that's where pictures don't always do justice. So, I mean, this is really tall and big.
How big is that shell?
I'm not really sure, but I know it's pretty thick. I'll get you that information. I think I would hate to guess because it takes probably about 30 to 45 minutes to cut one of those end caps off, just one. And then it's taken a pretty good while to cut it horizontally as well. So
I'm fine.
Plasma cutting and cutting is really the slow part of the whole process. So here we've got some workers. They're adjusting the roller stand. You can see the roller right here. So the converter sits down on this and this slowly rotates it while we have a stationary plasma cutter. And as it rotates, cutting that. We've added a second one on the other side to help try to gain some efficiencies and speed the process up a little bit. Here, this is end cap hoisted and being moved out. The segmentation shop's right over here, so it's moving over, they're placing it, stacking it up. Here we have a maintenance mechanic hooking up the lifting fixture and on that lifting bolt there, or lifting lug. And then this is just converter being moved, hoisted up and getting moved out of the way. Taking it over to the MSA, I'm sure. We got a few more pictures on the next slide. So here's a bundle coming down through the hatch into the truck alley outside. Here's like the trailer it's on, and then they're doing another wrap before they take it over to Linus. So here they are. This is the Mantu. Has a long carpet pole on it. Picks the bundle up and puts it over onto essentially the pressing table that's right back there. And then here is the fork truck taking the bundle that's in the storage box and putting it into storage in the gravel lay down area. 745C. So I mentioned it multiple times. You know, we've sent our workers, union workers, work control planners. We've sent our folks to Portsmouth. Portsmouth has sent their folks to Paducah. When we went to cut our first one, we had Ports folks here that had cut theirs, given our workers tips on exactly how to position the plasma torch so that the slag goes away from the converter and away from the bundle. Really working with them on how to slowly move the plasma torch and not just set in one spot and continue to burn and burn through, because of, you know, I think they were on converter 36 or 40 when they had an exothermic reaction. So the nickel with the slag can create an exothermic reaction, and so when that happens, you have to pretty much just evacuate and let it burn out. And so, you know, we really worked hard on emergency management and, you know, what the protocol is for if that was to happen. You know, Oak Ridge shared all their lessons with Portsmouth, and Portsmouth has shared with us. And we really worked really hard to implement all the lessons learned and do the knowledge share. And, you know, most any time when something comes up in the material sizing area or bundle size reduction, they know the first question I'm going to say is, well, what did Ports do? How did Ports, you know, did they run into this? What's, you know, what have we learned? What did we learn? if they didn't, why didn't they? Why are we different? And we have run into some of that. Our stage 8 converters in this facility are like 4 foot shorter than the other converters. And so that was one of the 7 types that, I guess because it was the end of the cell and they needed to fit it in, so it was shortened by about 4 feet shorter. So it impacted how it's set on the roller stand. It impacts your MSA setup, because now your center of gravity is a little different, and you got additional things that you have to think about and make sure that you're prepared to deal with. And like I said, we have a plan for all 7 types, but even though you have a plan, there's always these oddities that may arise that you have to kind of step back and look at and deal with. So, any questions on MSA, material sizing, segmentation, NDA, characterization for the 33 process building? All right, we'll go to the next slide. So the remaining slides are just highlight projects we wanted to just kind of go over. So we took a great effort as part of sustainability to upgrade all of our street lighting systems to LED. And so we've completed the final phase of that. It's been ongoing for more than a couple years, and Swift and Staley had that effort to do that conversion on the street lighting. And so we are 100% complete with all street lighting being converted over to LED, and we're able to up our sustainability goals and percents for energy efficiency by doing some of that. And then every year we have certain locations of railroad maintenance that we do. We get input from FRMP, we get input from MCS, the 2 main companies that mostly use the rail. And there's always replacement of ties, repair of the bedding, sometimes some even rail replacement, because we had some 90-pound rail that we upgraded to 150-pound rail in some locations that we put back into service. It was out of service because it was 90-pound. Upgraded it to 150 to be able to put it back in to use it. So each year we work with the FRMP and MCS to identify priority locations for the rail repairs that we assign Swift to repair. We'll go to the next slide. Is the final facility for the security complex. So this is the 211 security training facility. So the Pro Force, which are the boots on the ground, they use airsoft guns. They're very similar to machine guns or whatever. They just use plastic pellets, plastic BBs, and they train. And there's a big open area in there, and they do their pretty much they have airsoft wars in there. So if you've ever been to ACS to play airsoft in Paducah, that's what they do in there. So anyway, it's great that they're getting new facilities to be able to train in. They were in the 1950 C200. We still got the firefighters in there. We're working to get a design in place and get a new fire building for the firefighters to come out of 200, so that we can demolish 200, get off of the utilities. It's one of the 3 facilities that are holding us up from completely shutting down chilled water steam. This building is anticipated to be, well, actually, I think we just got the completion note on it, so it's done. It's 100% done. So. photographs. There was floppy, yeah, microfiche. You know, all that media has to be converted over to digital. And so half the battle was getting the technology to be able to read it off and then capture the images. You know, that was half the battle. So Swift had taken the lead on digitizing all this, all the legacy records, and have planned to be 100% complete with the historical record processing by the end of July. So they are really close to being done. There's a few different medias that are having trouble finding, like I said, the technology to be able to read the media, to be able to even digitize it. So, you know, everything's mostly electronic now, you know, that you go back and like, oh, hey, I got this CD. Where can I put this CD? And what do I do with this? Where's the CD readers? You know, we don't have them anymore. So before long, it'll be, you know, something else. But records are a big priority for headquarters as well. And, you know, so we've been able to show good progress on that. We've been able to take care of our backlog and maintain. So having the 106 shredder, you know, we've got a big industrial shredder for paper. We're able, each contractor is able to drop off, each one has a certain day that they take the records and things, and Switzen's Daily operates the shredder and runs the records, or not records, but the copies and things and whatnot through for destruction. You get your destruction certificates and things like that. So we've really been focused on and working hard on making sure that we've got all the records digitized, and if it's not a record, then, you know, we get rid of it or whatever. So the next slide's R114, another headquarters EM1 priority. This year we have a calendar year goal of disposition of 1 million pounds. From a performance plan standpoint, we set up a fiscal year goal of 1 million pounds, which kind of gets confusing. So we have met the fiscal year 24 1 million pounds back in mid-July, or not July, June, maybe. Anyway, we've met the fiscal year 1 million pounds. We're on schedule, actually ahead to meet the calendar year. I think the prediction's the end of October, early November. So we're 67% complete for the calendar year goal for the EM1 headquarters. So in total, you know, we had 8.5 million pounds. We disposed 5.6 million pounds to date. We have about 2.9 million pounds left, and that's about 66% complete overall. And the next was footprint reduction, facility demolitions that we've done for this fiscal year. I think we had 11 or so planned, and I think we've got one more left to do, and it's just load out of waste. So I'm not going to go through each one, but the most notable ones are the 611R high pressure fire water tower, which we have a video we'll show you guys here in a minute. We have the 727 facility, 746A. Those were some higher square foot facilities that have been demolished. And then the one picture that wasn't shown, already green, it will go green once the waste is loaded out. They're downsizing the waste. So once the water trailers and the sea lands are downsized, the 752C laydown yard cleanup will be green. So that's the only one, and it's slated to be done, I would say for sure by the end of the fiscal year. So 611R demolition, we'll play the video. We demoed it on Friday, May 31st. It was approximately 300 feet tall. It was our tallest point at the site.
Actually, I Googled, because I'd always heard it's the tallest one in the United States or close to. And everything I found, 300 10 feet tall. Everything I found was such and such towers. The tallest is 260 feet. I didn't find anything close to ours. I think that could have been tallest in the United States.
So it was taken out of service in November of 2021. We did an upgrade on the high pressure fire water systems inside the process facilities to convert from a wet suppression to a dry suppression. So essentially, instead of going off of a flow trigger, it goes off of a pressure trigger now. And so once we no longer needed it, it's a good time to take it down before it degraded to the point where, you know, it's potentially unsafe to take it down. So the typical mechanism for demolition of these types of towers is explosion, using explosives. And so, you know, you don't want to let it get so degraded that when you get ready to get to that point, you can't use that technology and use that method because, you know, of the stability of it. So there's a pretty critical window that you got to make sure that you stay within, that you don't let it set too long and get too degraded. So we'll play the video, and it's pretty awesome. Got to be out there and witness it and watch it, and
It's stubborn, and
I get it to play on the screen.
John L. Firing line hooked up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Fire.
And I will say it fell exactly where they had planned. And they even accounted for that day, the wind. They said, hey, I need 2 more sticks of dynamite on this leg. Hey, I need, you know, this over here. So it was pretty impressive and amazing just to hear the radio chatter for the guys that were setting up the explosives. And you can see we burned this little quasi hut. And I don't think that burn would have stopped that big tower at all. It would have been a pancake if they had missed their target. So everything went as planned. Now that the crew and team is working on downsizing the legs and the tower. But it was really pretty amazing.
that's some really good footage too.
It is. So you can see that there were selected legs that blew out and make it lean that way and just fell over that way to get it to where they wanted it.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were expecting to lose the camera on that one.
Yeah.
Explosive operations are all clear.
It is. Right to the drop of where they had said. Pretty amazing.
It's kind of
Yeah.
jellyfish.
Yeah. All right, the next.
John L. Firing line.
Now it's not being recorded. Don't won't talk too much about this. As Gay was mentioning earlier, what are you going to continue to work on at 400? So we just submitted the work plan addendum so we can go and sample up here north of 400 to get a better idea about the concentration here. For placement of a new groundwater well up here closer to 400 so we can continue to pull that source material back to the source area right here on the southeast corner. The next slide is kind of the timing of the things that I kind of talked about. The work plan addendum, we just issued the D2, I think it was last week. So we did get the comments on the D1, incorporated those comments, and then issued the D2. The field work for the sampling north in that gridded area, just on the previous slide, is in the fall timeframe. And then the results from that will be in appendix in the addendum in June 2025. So kind of a timeline for the next couple years of the 400 work there, things that are going to continue to progress there. Property transfer, we try to make sure that the contractors are always thinking about things that could be potentially reused, you know, obviously if it meets the free release requirements. So we were able to pre-release a couple pieces of equipment and then some trailers. These trailers right here are used to haul the Eurotainers, the isotainers for the R114. We replaced 10 of those trailers. Just so we trucked the R114 to the vendor, and so just the wear and tear from the road back and forth for the shipments that we've already done. It was time to replace some of the trailers, so we replaced 10 of those. We'll go to Pack Road. It'll probably just be scrap metal or recycled or whatever. So anyway, we continue to look, you know, wherever we can to provide items to Pack Road to be able to reuse, and also even just mentioned a little bit earlier about that 90-pound rail. So we've got everything lined up, and it'll be going to Pack Road as well. Took a little coordination, but we're going to be able to give it to Pack Road.
It's an interesting story about how you worked out a way to get that loaded was a real challenge.
Yeah, so Swift had the job to replace the rail, and we already had all the RAD surveys and everything, but they didn't have, with their fixed price contract, they didn't have or didn't price to get rid of. So ended up working with FRMP and their management team and waste operations team, and then working with Swift and Staley to have their heavy equipment operators go and load 90-pound rail onto the Pack Road trailers. Because really that's all that needed to be done, is just have it loaded. So we got that worked out, and
saved a lot of money.
Yeah, it saved, I think Swift had quoted about $200,000 to load it out. So it was labor FRMP already had on contract with their cost plus award fee contract. You know, they get paid for the labor already on there. So we were able to just that day, those waste operation heavy equipment operators went and load that out. So it was a win-win for everybody to be able to work that out.
Are they able to recycle that rail?
Yeah.
Or reuse it?
Well, I don't know if they'll reuse it, but it'll probably go to the scrap metal. Three Rivers Recycling. Yeah.
It's a whole.
Gosh, I didn't know if it had any.
I think because it's light duty rail, so it's really not
standard anymore.
So kind of along the line with the Pack Road and property transfer, we actually got real property request from the community requesting approximately 250 acres of land, kind of more on the east side of the plant. So kind of over here, if you will, on this side. So this Portsmouth, just as an idea, Portsmouth, their first parcel transfer took about 18 months. Again, Paducah, very similar but different from Ports in that Paducah's on the national priority list. So we will have some additional hoops to go through to be able to transfer our property. But I think getting the request and getting started on it, will help get through those hurdles, much easier. Once we get through the first one and everything kind of gets ironed out on how the process works, we'll be able to speed up and become more efficient each time. So, we're really trying to look for some non-impacted land, and most of this on the southeast side here of the plant, there's not a whole lot of solid waste management units and things like that. So, yeah, just ditches and things like that. So, the next slide kind of goes through the process for the land transfer. We have to put together an environmental baseline survey. That's kind of our due diligence report. And we work with the regulators and prepare a proposal or transfer package. A lot of effort, a lot of work goes into the process and the packages associated with it. It has to go to headquarters for review and approval. A very tedious process, very lengthy process. There's LFROG process that it has to go through for review as well. So anyway, we will be starting this process. We've already started, starting to gather the environmental baseline survey data, putting that together, and once we get that data pulled together, there may be some things because we really want to transfer contiguous land. We don't want to transfer this little dot, that little dot, this little dot. We really want to be able to transfer as many acres as a parcel as we can. And so if we have to go and dig up, 3 foot or 4 foot in a particular area, then, we'll go do that versus, cutting that little area out. So, really focused on contiguous.
Make sure it's all clean.
Making sure that it meets all the training.
Hey, you brought up LFROG, and I don't know if we talked about that. Kathy,
Yeah.
Just kind of a brief explanation.
Yeah, so there's a committee. Do you know what it stands for?
No.
Anyway, there's a committee, headquarters committee, put together these SMEs and things, and they review the different sites, land transfers, like they reviewed the groundwater model we put together. Anyway, so for the land transfer process, they'll be the ones that review for the 435.1, which is the RAD controls. They'll be doing the review, as Buzz said, to make sure, and they will not sign off on the package, to make sure that it's good to transfer for the intended purpose.
Low-level waste disposal facility federal review group.
That's it.
That's it.
Federal Review Group, that's all I know. Yeah. There you go. So, anyway, it's a very onerous process to get it through that group, to get their blessing so it can move to the next step. Obviously, that group has to give it the blessing before it goes to headquarters, so headquarters can say, okay, we know our SMEs have looked at this and we feel good that, that we can transfer this. So, all part of the process. The next slide, we talked about the environmental baseline survey. This one does kind of show the area that the community requested. We're really focusing kind of more on this lower portion from here down. Because as you can see, these are ditches, outfalls, they go to outfalls, and those are solid waste management units. And so, we are working with ports and looking at, because at ports, they did not transfer their ditches. So the parcel would come up on this side and like this south one, it would be like, let's say, this is how they did it. They would segment it from the south down, and then this one, in between these two would be one, and then in between these two would be one. so that the ditches didn't transfer essentially. And, so they're looking at, was that the smart thing to do? And so we've got a team put together, internal team, in combination with headquarters and even some of the federal review group folks talking about, is that the best way to tackle it, or do we need to go ahead and, let's say, you can see on this side, we've got 3 right there. Well, why don't we just have 1, divert your drainage, make it 1, so then that way you can clean this up to transfer that whole entire piece instead of these individual little blocks. So a lot of discussion going in on that transfer, but we hope to send the regulators the environmental baseline survey for their review in early to mid-fall. Let's see. So this pink is TVA land. This light color, non-hatched, is wildlife management. And then the hatched is the DOE property. And then the blue is a property protection area. So it's bounded by we call it the 229 fence. But so most of this is leased to wildlife management in these hatched areas. And then this area right here is the 746U landfill. But the community is interested in the east side because that's where the power lines come in at, and the water comes from a group south. And then also, I think there's like the triple rail site somewhere up on the other side over there. Then there's, yeah, and then GLE is working this down here. Yes. So we do have, you can see this little road right here. So we have probably from this here that we're kind of holding, so GLE would have access to go from the cylinder yards, which are right here, down to where they are. So, but it's included in the EBS, so that way, if that comes to fruition, it'll be ready to go because we've already had it analyzed and evaluated. So it'll just be a matter of cutting that parcel out. Okay, next slide. Any questions on any of those kind of miscellaneous activities and things going on? So we'll talk about Duff Sticks just a little bit about what all they have going on. Duff Sticks contractor was a recipient for the Kentucky Governor Safety Award. So wanted to point that out and mention that. Safety obviously is our number 1 focus at the plant. As Jaden mentioned earlier, the DOE orders and guides and standards are way more strict than OSHA for sure. So we always fall to the most conservative safety limit or factors. So Duff Sticks has been doing very good on their conversion goals. They've met their September through March goals, which is really good because, for the longest time, they had some unrealistic milestone and goals on production. And so it's really, they're really happy to have something more realistic and be able to meet those goals and then essentially exceed. So they've installed 95 of 137 CV19 valves on CV19s to use. So they'll reuse those cylinders for Duff Sticks, the depleted oxide powder that will come out of the process in the end. They worked on production improvements and installed I think about 4 lines. They installed new flow meters on 4 lines to help increase production and reduce the downtime for repairs and replace. They've updated a lot of their plant lighting in the facilities to LED. in most areas. And, you know, their main goal is to continue conversion operations, evaluate and look for plant improvements and opportunities to improve reliability. Those are really their main focus as far as processing dust sticks.
They've had like 4 lines running, which is
The first time in a really long time we've had 4 lines running. Yeah. So the next slide's on oxide shipping and where we're at on that. So this would be the depleted uranium that they put back into the cylinders that they feed. They plan to ship 60 by the end of September, another 60 by December, and 186 total. And they're shipping it to WCS, Waste Control Specialists in Texas. And it's important to, you might say, well, why don't you just, you know, let that just keep processing, put them in the yard. But it's important to keep you're going to get stovepipes with yard space if you don't process those, because right on Dust 6 processing hills is the plant cleanup. And so, you know, we can't clean up if we have all these cylinders over here. You know, those have to either be moved or processed. And so it's all kind of everything's contingent on one another. They have some cylinders right over here, and then they have the bulk of them down here. But you know, they need to process these, and they get the ones that have the depleted uranium in them out so they can move these others inside the plant, where we're going to want to be starting to dig and using soil to go with our demo debris and things like that. So that way they have space to move them in down here to process. But they had about 150 CV12 cylinders, and that's really what they focused on and processed the last 2 years. The CV12s are a little bit different. They're kind of like makeshift cylinders, sort of, and they can't be, you cannot use them for the depleted oxide. So they have to process some of the regular ones that can be, along with those that they've been processing. And they've got all of those 120 processed that they, or 150 that they had processed. Last slide on Dust 6, and to help facilitate their oxide shipping, they're looking at a phased approach to standing up a facility dedicated just to help do that. They have been able to ship oxide, and we have shipped, I think we shipped 60 cylinders early this fiscal year. And they're able to do it, but it's just not as efficient. And so they're looking at a phased approach to building a facility solely focused for oxide shipment. And so they've worked on rail space, and rail space is one of the keys, because the gondolas that they put the oxide cylinders in to load up, you got to have track space for those. And it's really congested, and they've taken some rail that previously was inactive and done some maintenance on it to bring it back up, and then even expanded it in length so that they had, you know, space to put, you know, more rail cars, more cars in. So now they're working on the actual facility and the connection of the kind of that facility rail to the rail that they put in for the flow over cars, essentially. They moved the soil pile that used to be over, probably not be able to see it here. It was like right here. They moved this pile up, and then essentially their facility, they plan to put in right there in that kind of elbow right there. And then they've expanded the track. Track comes across like right here, and they've expanded it out back this way some and then up. So that way they have some space for the cars. I think that is all the slides. Are there any questions? And that was a lot, and cover like the whole entire site and everything we do all the time, but it's good to, I mean, there's a lot going on at the plant, a ton of work. It's just amazing. Like, I feel like it's been the most going on in a long while. It seems like it's just every day. It's good. Everybody's busy running 100 miles an hour, it seems like, so. But any questions? Hopefully I helped you with acronyms and pointing out things and.
Always helps.
Get my grade on
I know we covered a lot, but you get outside of like senior management, project directors, and most folks out on site are just kind of doing their job, right? So legitimately, you guys have as good a scope of what's going on the site as probably the top 95% of the people in the area, right? Like, and that's a big deal for us, is making sure that you guys have a good grasp on what's going on, because of your role in providing advice to DOE, but also as being members of the public, and they can go and take this message to other folks and know, like, when these things pop up and questions that, you know, we're not expected to be experts, but to have a little bit of semblance of what's going on. And so it's, I just wanted you guys to realize that it's, I realize it's a lot of material, but it does put you in fairly elite company in knowing like everything that's going on to this much detail. And it's, we know it's a lot, but we think it's important, and it's, thank you for your time and willingness to listen and follow along and ask questions. Thank you, April.
Yeah.
And as always, tell the board members that if you do, on your drive home, come up with this fabulous question you forgot to ask, just forward it to Eric, Haley, Buzz, and then we'll get it to April. If it's directly to April or Buzz, we'll get an answer back there. Both have been very reliable in getting answers back for us, anything that you might have that way. So it doesn't have to be tonight, be anytime upcoming as well. Eric, were there any public comments tonight?
I'm not aware of any. Does any members of the public would like to provide comment at this point?
Are there any final comments from any of the board members here tonight?
Very interesting. I know.
Welcome. Worked her to death.
Yeah. Well, it's easy for me because that's my life every day. It's all that is my life every single day. So for me, I'm like happy to share because I'm like, hey, look at all this cool stuff we're doing.
Reminder to board members of that July tour. Haley will be getting more word out as it gets closer. Just a reminder, whether 3 o'clock here or 3:30 at the staging area, garden.
And you might be hearing from us on just some brief security questions that each of the side. We'll work with Zach to make sure that if we need middle names or anything like that. I did want
to thank our interns for being present tonight and wish you well wherever your careers. Hopefully your careers will take you right here. But if that's not what they do, we wish you well for what lies ahead for you. Those that you stand here to take, we've had those careers. We know what's ahead. We wish you well with all that goes on. And if I need help with my computer at home, I know who to contact. And all of that. If there are no other things to come before the board at this time, I do declare this meeting adjourned.